they said on the right side.
Is it?
Bad time.
You're not worried about
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's thank you for this wonderful day. We ask you to look over those folks, the police officers, especially in Philadelphia, who went through quite a turmoil yesterday. We ask you to look over all the families in El Paso and Dayton who are struggling with the loss of loved ones. We ask that you give us the wisdom to do what is in the best interest of those that we are here to represent. And we ask in a special way that you look over those folks who are protecting our freedoms and their families. We ask all this through your Son. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's roll call.
Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Kirchner,
Here.
Commissioner Paradiso.
Here.
Okay, so we have minutes from the last meeting from August 9th. I will accept a motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. I think it's just the two of us, so we'll accept it as it is. Are there any adjustments to the agenda that you're aware of? Okay, so we have a ditch hearing, and they are supposed to be calling in at 9:30. We're not calling them, they're calling us.
Yeah, they're calling us.
Don't call us, we'll call you. Okay, so why don't we get started? Charlene, you're the first thing on the agenda, so you'll probably be interrupted, and I apologize for
We might
that.
want to wait for that because we're supposed to call somebody for AEP too.
We're supposed to have them on the line?
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, is there anything
We
else
can
with
probably
Kelly?
we can probably call him early if need be. I think he was going to be available. But however
Okay.
you want to handle
They're
it.
calling,
We call out.
they're calling in.
I'll tell you what, why
I
don't
just
you...
seen the lights.
No, we're not. He's not
They're
calling.
probably calling.
County ditch.
All right, so we got that cluster handled.
There it is.
What a ringtone that is. Can we change that?
Commissioner's office, this is Nikki. Hello?
Hello,
Yes, good morning. Sunny County Commissioners here.
good morning, it's the Nessie County Commission, I'm in Conferencing, Wood County here in just a second.
Okay.
Wood County, do I still have you on the phone? You do. And Seneca County, you still there?
Sunny
Yes.
County, we are here with Commissioner Paradiso and Commissioner Kirchner.
Okay, and Sandusky County has Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Zimmerman, and Commissioner Ryder. Wood County has all three of our commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are calling, just to review the Tri-County ditch for our annual hearing. I have resolution 2019-260. That resolution is authorizing that the proposed maintenance work for 2019 for the Wilbur Bell Joint County ditch number 2302-A, the Big Mud Joint County ditch number 717, and the Wagner Joint County ditch number 783 in Sandusky, Woods, Seneca counties be approved as submitted by the ditch maintenance supervisor. We have the Wilbur Bell Joint County ditch at 3%, the Big Mud Joint County ditch at 3.5%, and the Wagner County ditch at 3%. Does anyone have any questions? Any change from last year? I believe the only change was the, let me pull the paperwork up real quick. The Big Mud ditch went from 3% to 3.5. The Wilbur Bell went from 2% to 3%. and the Wagner stays the same. Okay, thank you.
What is the language?
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, Mike Kirschner, Seneca County, move for approval.
Second by Miller, Sandusky County.
We'll take a roll call vote here in Seneca County, please.
Commissioner Paradiso?
Approve.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Wood County Commissioner Heronshaw?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHolt?
Yes.
Commissioner Boland?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Ryder? Yes. Commissioner Zimmerman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sandy and, Nick, if you guys can have those signed and send it back to me, I will send you a, full copy when we get all the signatures together.
Sure will, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you all, have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.
Okay, why don't we do your report? Do you have an administrator's report? Pardon me? Do that later.
We can do AP now.
Oh, we can? Okay. Let's get on with it then. AEP, electric vehicle charging station.
This is Al, may I help you?
Hi, Al. You have John Recker. You're with the Seneca County Commissioners, and Charlene Watkins, who's the Director of Seneca County Regional Planning. So we're just starting our time on the agenda.
Okay, great.
Good morning, Al. This is Charlene. So for the commissioner's information, regional planning is to present information when asked to research it. We were asked by Commissioner Thomas to research the EV charging station incentive program from AEP, which would reimburse the county for the installation of charging stations. So we've handed out a package. We provided this to you early, sent it via email. We've talked to AEP. We've started kind of doing some of the pre-planning so we can understand it better, looking at site locations. And basically, I can give you the basic overview, and then we have great AEP representatives here to give you a little more in-depth. We also have Chris Decker in the crowd, who's part of AEP, who's been helping me with some information as well. So the basic overview is that we could potentially qualify for up to about 3 charging stations. The charging stations come on different levels. There's a level 2 and a level 3. The level 2 is a long-term charger. And a long-term charger means it takes longer to charge your vehicle. It's not as compatible with as many electric vehicles, where the level 3 charger is a quick charge, about an hour is what they say, and that's going to be more compatible with more vehicles as we go into the future. Based off of the statistics, Seneca County doesn't have many electrical vehicles in it right now, but the understanding from car manufacturers is they're on an upswing to change that. The other point of interest that we need to remember is that when people who have electric vehicles are traveling, they have an application on their phone that basically they can pull it up and see where a charging station is. And when they see where those charging stations are, that's how they plan their trips. The closest one to Seneca County is in Bowling Green. So there would be an incentive that if we were to do this, we could actually draw in more people who would have to park their car downtown for about an hour to 2 hours, which would help with a little economic development, getting more people into our county, and seeing other things. I'm going to basically turn this over to John and his team so they can give you a little more information. I think it's better to get it from the horse's mouth than from me, so I don't have to repeat it. So I will let them give you the info.
All right, thank you, Charlene. And I wanted to just clarify on one point that Charlene made. In terms of the incentive program, right now with the way it's structured, and we had different allocations of money. I mean, there were the incentive program was set up for workplace applications for the charging stations, government applications, other public ones, but for the allotment for the government applications or the truly public applications, there is only money available right now for the fast chargers, the DC fast charging stations, which are 480 volt, three-phase stations. Those are the ones that Charlene mentioned, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes for a full charge on a vehicle. Which in my opinion is, if you're looking at a downtown application, is really what you're going to want, is the quick chargers. So in terms of, the county can still install the slow chargers, but there wouldn't be incentive money for those. Correct, Al?
Yes, mostly correct. The level 2 charging stations, we do have funds available if they're installed as a workplace type. So if you were going to charge county vehicles or county, employees or something like that at a workplace, that's still available. The incentive is capped at about $5,000 per port for those. A typical station is a dual port, so you could get, $5,000 per port is the cap on the workplace type for level 2. I agree that probably the way to pursue is going to be the level 3, or what we call DC, direct current fast charging stations. I agree that they charge in 30 minutes to an hour, probably close, 30 minutes is about what the typical charge might be, or the time that someone might charge on it. You can charge a vehicle about 80% of the battery life in that time. That's what we see. That provides the greatest incentive offering we have also. John, you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Al. That'd be great. And just to let everybody know, I'm Community Affairs Manager for the Western District of AEP, Ohio. Al is the Program Manager. He's based out of Canton, the Program Manager behind the EV charging station. So he's definitely more the expert than I am. That's why I asked him to join us today. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, thank you, John. So let's talk about the DC fast chargers for a moment. So they're going to require a 480 volt three-phase service. Typically, a customer, when they have been applying for these, they're requesting a new service for this. We have an attractive rate to use for that as well. I can talk about that more in a minute. But basically, the DC fast charger, we offer an incentive for government-owned property, and it's $100,000 incentive per station, and it will allow up to 2 stations at that point, and we do cap that incentive at $150,000 for those 2 stations at one location. It can be done for that amount of money. We're paying 100% of that cost up to that cap. So it really is an attractive thing for a city. We're trying to promote, with our program here, we're trying to promote intercity travel by electric vehicles. And as was mentioned earlier, there may not be a lot now, but there's going to be a lot soon. So you are able, once you install this station, we do not determine how much you can charge, or it's difficult, how much you could require someone to pay to charge at your station. That's up to you to decide. If you require them to pay too much, they won't use it. They'll go to the next one. But I believe that you could cover your costs for the electricity through this charge. I'm not sure it's a huge moneymaker, but I think you could do it for more than cover your costs, though.
And Al, am I correct in saying that they would be county-owned charging stations and available in that scenario? need to be made available to the public. And if but the county could also charge its own fleet vehicles off of the same stations, is that correct?
That's correct. You could charge your own vehicles, however you want to pay for those, whether you want to pay for that or not, or require payment for your own vehicles, but the public charging, you could charge a fee for. It's up to you to establish that fee.
So it would not be a revenue generator, it would just be a negative, it would be a break-even type of thing if we were to install these. Again, my position in regional planning is always present you with information and opportunity. So we're presenting you with the information and opportunities and letting you make the decision on whether you would like us to proceed with an application.
I have a couple questions. First quick. So when we discussed this last time, we were thinking level 2. And level 2 allows up to 6 ports. I think 4 was a number we were throwing around, right?
We were, but
Now
now
we're
that
at
there's a
level
change.
3 with a max of 2 ports. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would go
And
with that.
and it's 2 ports per station, is that right?
ABM explained that it is a 1-port station.
Okay.
So you would have 2 they're rectangle charging units, and you would have 1 port, which is the cord that comes out and goes to the car. And it would, basically, you'd have 2 parking spots, and you could put 1 here, so it can go to either parking spot. And if you opted to have a second one, you would do the same thing for 2 more.
Off the same pedestal, or would you have a separate?
Separate pedestal per ABM when we talk to them.
Okay, well, here's my question. You'll probably understand my position by my question. Who died and made the county responsible to have a charging station? If this were break even or profitable, why hasn't the private sector stepped in and supplied charging stations?
Sure.
I could try to comment on that if you'd like.
Sure.
So we offer an incentive to government, local government, where we'll pay 100%. We pay a lesser amount to private. And we did have public level 2 charging stations available, but all of that money has been committed. And so the level 2 for public charging is not available anymore through AEP Ohio, just the workplace, which is a lower incentive than we were offering. But we are looking at 100% up to 150,000 on the DC fast charger, the level 3.
Right.
And that covers all your installation costs can be in that, including the maintenance and network plan for up to 5 years.
It's just that I have a real problem with the county. First of all, why county? Why not city? Why not state? If there is a government entity that's going to be sponsoring this. Secondly, history has proven to me that the private sector can do things a whole lot better than the government can do things. So why wouldn't these incentives or be offered to private industry, Marathon or whomever else you might pick as a fuel station? And because people opt to get electric cars, I think it's a great thing. But then isn't it their responsibility to make sure that they have a way to keep those things charged?
Well, as Al said, the incentive is available to any private sector. It's at a 50% versus the 100%. I think I think the intent behind 100% for public entities. If the county looks at it as a burden, then by all means you really shouldn't approve it.
Well, I don't know that it's a burden as much as it is, does it belong in the public sector? Does it belong with government? Or if there is a need for the recharging stations, wouldn't the private sector pick up that need? If there truly is a need in Seneca County and Tiffin, Ohio, for a charging station, you wouldn't be coming to the government. That somebody would be putting it in as a profit center for themselves. Okay? So my point is, based on that, I don't see the need, and anybody that decides to have an electric vehicle at this point in time, I assume has the wherewithal to have a charging station at his or her house and install, knowing that that's if you decide to buy an electric car in Seneca County and know there isn't a charging station here, I mean, I guess it's up to you to make certain that happens. I'm not gonna start sending out gas cards to people either.
I have a couple more questions. Good?
Yeah.
So if I have talked to the mayor of Fostoria and the mayor of Tiffin, and they have some interest. So when you say local governments, it's, Charlene, you represent the county, right?
I represent the county, both municipalities, and the townships. The
So-
reason I brought this is because Shane asked me to
Yes.
review it. I'm bringing it to you guys since I
But
reviewed it.
this would qualify for Fostoria or City of Tiffin?
Right.
Sure would.
Okay. Number two, if, this is the fine print, Al, I'm asking you, if a municipality takes this, gets 100% funding, 5 years goes by, can the municipality transfer this to a private sector? Thus taking advantage of all the upfront cost and then getting out of the long-term maintenance of it.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. The commitment to us is that you keep it for 4 years. We separately meter these charging stations as we would like to see the usage history, understand how people use them, so we can better develop a rate, and that's why we're offering the funding to get these out there and get it going. I mean, it's the electric vehicles are coming. They can't just charge them at home. People travel to work, etc. So the infrastructure is going to be built. In my mind, it's a good opportunity for a city or a county to get $150,000 worth of gear installed. Perhaps make some money on it, but it would drive tourism in a sense, or bring people to the city that might avoid it otherwise, that sort of thing. So it's until these charging stations are in place. I will tell you that there are other cities near you that are and counties that are considering adding charging stations. So we are able to supply probably about 75 to 80 of these funding for this, and we're down to maybe 25 left. So if you're interested in it, the timing is so there's some urgency.
Okay, well, one of the selling points here is that they would stop in your city from a tourism standpoint. But when you talk about this 480 volt three-phase, I assume the technology is going to get to the point. Right now, it's 30 minutes. I assume technology would get to the point in the near future when it's, I don't want to say instantaneous, but I would guess that the charging time has improved dramatically over the last few years. And that the incentive for saying that someone would be a new tourist here, if it was 15 minutes, they simply would charge their car like I would fill mine with gas and away they go.
So to help move this along, I guess we know where Commissioner Kirchner's position is. I'm not against these personally. I do agree with Commissioner Kirchner that sitting here right now today, I don't think the county, I just don't see the county owning them and taking up downtown parking spots. But I think, if we could, do we have a couple more weeks where we can talk? I've talked to Mayor Keckler and Mayor Mons, and they have interest. Mayor Keckler didn't know anything about it,
He was
and I'm
sick.
not sure, at least he acted like he didn't know anything about it. And so we might be able to get there, okay?
And
So-
I don't have a problem with that. I've already talked to Mayor Mons about it as well, and he did express interest, but like I was explaining, Commissioner Thomas asked me to bring info and research, and I did. And time is of the essence, I can understand that. We have spoke with ABM. They are the supplier and installer, and they're working up a quote for us, just so we kind of have an idea of how much this would cost to do and locations. I've talked with AEP, and they said if we were to do this, we have to put in a new service request so they can kind of look at things and give us a quote on how much it would cost to do the service request stuff. I'm happy to hold, and we can give it a couple weeks and talk to the city and go back and forth a little bit. I'm also happy to do whatever you deem you want to do. If you said today you wanted me to move forward, we would submit the pre-application so we can get us in the queue for the funding. And that's the key, is getting us in the queue for the funding. It doesn't have to be a complete application, it just needs, paperwork needs submitted.
I just have one more question, Al, for you. So, and if I'm hearing you right, there's gonna be one pedestal. So in other words, the city of Fostoria would not have one, and the city of Tiffin couldn't have one, right? Under this proposal, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
No, they could each have two at a single location.
As long as the total tab was, to put all that in, was under 150,000?
Yeah, that's per location. So
Okay.
you can do two charging stations of the DC fast chargers at one location. The incentive cap would be at $150,000, but you could put one. The same city could put two more 5 miles away, at a different location, and we could still fund that as well.
My
But we
understanding,
do have a limit in our funding to the number that we can fund, and we're
I get it.
we're about 2/3 of the way through that committed funding.
my understanding was that we did run it past the city of Tiffin, they did not have an interest, is that true?
Mayor Montz has an interest, we have not talked to the council yet. So.
I talked to Aaron, he's open to talk about it. Yes, so,
We don't have to commit on a location at this point, right?
No, it has to be in our service
Sure.
territory, on our lines, but
Go to
other than that, no.
So we can continue to do our due diligence and evaluate prospective spots, be in the queue for the application, and then, it's possible that our due diligence reveals that none of our locations are going to be right for this, but we would have to look at alternative locations. So we may be looking at the city lot, we may be looking at private lots. Does it have to be on the applicant's property?
So the way the terms and conditions read, it has to be owned or leased by the local government, the property does.
Okay.
So it technically, it could be a lease and it's for the length of time that we require, which is 4 years, right?
Right.
But, so you would own the equipment afterwards. You could do whatever you wanted with it. If you didn't want to have a charging station anymore, you could sell it to someone, I suppose, so.
Al, Mike Kirchner, why doesn't AEP do this as a company? Why would you be giving $150,000 out to government agencies if there is a potential to break even or make money?
Well, the way the current laws are, we can't do these on our own. It is something we have to be prepared to build, though. So, I mean, we would have a great interest in doing this and owning the stations, but we're precluded from doing that at this point.
So the utility is precluded from doing it? Are private individuals precluded from doing it?
No,
Every
private
source of-
individuals are not.
Yeah.
It's just that the way we're regulated, it isn't something that we can do
Sounds
right
like
now.
Sounds like you need a good lobbyist.
Every source of
I'm not
revenue.
disagreeing.
Yeah, every source of revenue that we have access to is regulated by the PUCO, and this would be a new source of revenue. Evidently, the answer has been no. Plus, in terms of downtown real estate, it's usually your public entities, your cities, your county governments who have the best locations. And that's really what's going to drive the success
Well,
of these stations.
the charging stations that I've seen aren't necessarily in downtown areas. They are near a mall
Right.
you know, near a restaurant.
Yeah. A lot of car
So people have
dealerships,
something
car
to do.
dealerships have been
Yeah.
installing them as well.
So, yeah, people have something to do while they're charging the car.
So I would like to, I agree with Commissioner Kirschner. I don't think the county should be in the business of these kind of things, but I also would like I would like to, is there a way we can propose this, approve it, with sort of caveat that we're gonna talk to the two cities within our county, do the study, and then we have the ability to say no at the end, or yes at the end, or the two cities can take it.
Yes, what we can
We can
do
do that,
is if
then.
the commissioners chose today to say, hey, we'd like to approve you submitting the pre-application to put us in the queue, and we would like to further study this out, we always have the right to come back and say there's a change, or we don't want to do this. And if that is what you would like to do, then I can do that. If you are saying we just don't want to do it at all and we want to work with the cities, then we'll move forward and we'll call the cities and do that. But again, here to serve you, so it's your choices.
Yeah, I think we need to look at every
Can I
pitch.
offer a couple comments
Sure.
regarding the application process too?
Yes.
So just to clarify, the pre-approval application, there is some certainty to it, or what I would need to do to reserve funds for someone, I'd have to have the physical location where you wanted to put it. You can estimate the costs, and those can change by the final, but I would reserve funding up to that $150,000 for a particular entity at a named location. You could later decide you're not going to do it, and then those funds would become available to the public again. So what I'm saying, where I'm really going with this is, if you don't lock down a reservation, you could get excluded because it's first come, first served.
Well, there's been, Mike Kirschner again, there's been a lot of conversation here about talking to the mayor and talking to the mayor of both Tiffin and Astoria. I would like to have a conversation with the township trustees. I mean, after all, we are representing 57,000 people here, and Tiffin represents 17,000. So before we do something that is sponsored, if you will, for lack of a better word, by the county, I think there ought to be some input from the township.
Can I make a comment? Sure. Bill Frankert, I wear a couple hats, township trustee, also business owner. The concern I have is the maintenance of this. I've owned a car-to-go gas station for about 7 years, and 2 o'clock in the morning somebody drives off with the hose hanging out of the car. The key to this is who's going to maintain that, who somebody drives over it, who's going to be responsible for that. That could turn into a huge caveat of dollars and spent on this. So just a major concern I have just from experience of owning a car-to-go gas station.
Are we able to submit in our application multiple locations for consideration if we narrowed it down to 3 locations? Because we need to do a little bit of due diligence on power availability and whatnot, so.
So realize that the cost of getting power to that location can be covered in this application also. And the maintenance plan and the network plan is part of the funds that can be recovered, be covered for these installations also. So at least for the terms that, it is a 4-year commitment to the charging station.
And it is my understanding after speaking with ABM, and please correct me if I'm wrong now, that when it comes to maintenance, the maintenance plan is with our company that we would go with. So if we worked with ABM to do the installation, they would be in charge of the maintenance. Is that correct?
I don't know how the actual maintenance agreement is written between the people, but we require that there be a maintenance plan for the term of the 4-year commitment to the program. So I can't tell you that each maintenance plan is covered by the people that installed it.
All right, do you want to make a motion that we continue our due diligence and get in the queue, knowing that we have an exit ramp?
I would do that, I just don't, I don't know what physical location is.
We've had a discussion of
That's a
parking lot
caveat that I'm
here,
not sure we can.
and then we've gotta look at other locations that are available. When we had ABM come out and just do a site visit to start working on a cost for us, tell us what's feasible, they told us that the RTA parking lot would not be feasible due to underground boring that would have to be done, and it would be highly expensive. Parking lot for the commissioners would be a potential good location, they said, and then we would need to look at a few of the city lots if the city was interested, and ABM's happy to come out and send a rep and look at sites for us if we need them to.
I think I'm more comfortable releasing you that this isn't dead, and we bring it back next week with feedback from both mayors. And then we act then, and if all the money's dried up by then it's dried up. If it's not, then we can have a discussion and vote. That's what I'd like to do.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Al.
good.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Al.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Bye now.
Sure to do that for you.
And thank you to Charlene, because she didn't lose
Thanks
this
for
ball in the sun, because it was something that came out of the parking study to look at these technologies, and she continued to monitor that and follow that grant opportunity. So the fact that we get to look at every pitch is a testament to her tenacity and staying with us.
Yep.
So, I appreciate that.
We will get in contact with both the mayors, and I'll send them some info and talk to them. We'll see what we come up with, and maybe they might like to come next week to talk to you
I'd
guys
be
as
glad
well.
to meet with them.
Okay.
Both times.
Sounds good. All right, thanks a lot for your time. And if you guys don't want to stay, you don't have to.
Have fun for it.
We're heading to Tiffin University for a meeting. So.
Thanks very much for your time. Do you need help?
Oh, yeah. K-O-H-L-E.
Hitting you with chairs.
Is Kelly here? Hey! We have another distinguished guest. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Hello, we have Kelly Beckett.
Hello there.
First Step.
My name is Kelly Beckett. I am the interim executive director of First Step in Fostoria. I'm sure you all know that it's been a place of safe haven in the community for quite some time. That has hit a rocky road over the last couple of years with the loss of their executive director. And so we're trying to rebuild some things, programs and services that we are offering we actually can serve all four surrounding counties, Wood, Wyandotte, Sandusky, and Seneca, but the bulk of our clients come from Seneca County. So we really just wanted to come before the commissioners and talk about our needs, and because we currently receive marriage license fees from the commissioner's office, and whether it is additional revenue from that source or from any other source that you might have. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening there so that you guys have an understanding of what our needs are. So if you want to check.
What is the current marriage license fee? Do you know that?
I think, what is the amount?
Yeah.
I think that we get a total of $10,000 over the course of a year.
Okay.
And it comes 5, 4, and then whatever the remainder is after the first of the year.
Part of being married.
Yeah.
True story. True story.
That should be higher.
And there are some other counties in the state of Ohio that look at other fees, other fees that are collected from other sources to kind of fund their domestic violence shelter, but marriage license fees are the largest that the counties do specifically usually to the domestic violence shelter. One of the issues with First Step is that they've had a little bit of an identity crisis going on, I think. And our focus, the board's focus, my focus, the staff's focus is to really get reestablishing as a domestic violence shelter. One of the things about domestic violence shelters is that in the past it was, let's just have them for 30 days as an emergency and then, you know, get them to transitional housing and those kind of things. Well, the current state of affairs with the addition of the heroin crisis and people being abused by their abuser using the drugs to control them means that they are sometimes going to rehab and then they still need some work on the violence issue and the trauma that came from that violence. So we're seeing more of a 90-day stay as opposed to a 30-day stay because the transitional housing's full too. So all the shelters around in the surrounding counties stay pretty full most of the time. And we've been staying pretty full for the last few months. Some change in the management, obviously, because we have a change in the management, but also because we are keeping them longer in order to hopefully plan for more success. So this last month we had 234 bed days, and that's what I'm kind of giving you here. And in the whole year of 2018, you can see that it kind of went up and down. There were 2 months there that they didn't have any residents at all in the shelter, which is really odd, especially because most of the shelters are full in the surrounding counties. And so I came in January as a consultant, and then in March they decided they wanted to keep me, or maybe it was February, around for a little while. And then Terry passed in March. And so we're really trying to rebuild. Well, as we rebuild, we're noticing that we have not enough staff and not enough beds to serve the people we need to serve. So we've got people calling. We don't necessarily always have to turn people away, but we have a couple of unique circumstances. A long time ago, I don't even know when because I don't have, I get a little bit of their history at a time. They had an issue with bed bugs. I'm just gonna call it what it is. They had an issue with bed bugs, so they got rid of every single bed they had. It must have been years ago though, but they never replaced it to the amount of beds that they had had previously. We have a lot more room for a lot more beds in our shelter, so we could probably handle double the amount of people that we're taking, but we don't have beds, which to me as a community, which I'm kind of excited that you're all here. I know you're here not for this, but I'm kind of excited that you're all here. Because as a community, this is something generally people in the community would donate or, you know, something of that nature. And so we're not getting quite as many donations of that sort. They need to be metal beds because bed bugs are prevalent. I come from Franklin County, so to talk about bed bugs there is no big deal. Talking about here, it's a little bit different. But we need additional beds, and then we need more staff. And we've applied for some very large grants. The VOCA grant from the Attorney General's office. We've applied for JAG through the Ohio Criminal Justice Services Office for large amounts of money to hopefully try to rebuild the staff and offer more community services where we're having domestic violence group where community members can come in and join that group. It's ongoing. We always have it. Counseling services for people who have endured trauma due to violence in their home. But we need to be able to supplement those grants in order to, you know, show that the community is in support of us and that we are giving the community what they need. So we currently get about $10,000 in marriage license fees. And if you look at our growth just over the past few months, I wanted to show you the kind of sporadic thing from last year because I thought it was kind of odd. But over the last few months, we're really having some steady we're maintaining some really good numbers. So, but we have 4 bedrooms, and so if there's a woman with a family, then she needs 1 bedroom to herself. But if we had 4 singles, if we had 4 beds in a room, we could put 4 singles in there. But that's not how it's shaking out because we don't have the number of beds we need. We also have an apartment that they used to use it as for overnight staff. People would just stay there, be like a house mother. We don't really staff that way anymore because we don't have overnight staff. That's something that we're working on because we want overnight staff to be there all the time. But I'd like to make that apartment into a place that we can serve male victims as well, so that they have their privacy and separate a little bit of separation from females because it has an extra bedroom or an extra bathroom off of it, and be able to serve male victims if we're able, or serve overflow if we have it. So, what questions do you have for me?
Well, I think the best thing we can do for you at this point, Jimmy, you can get the story and maybe get your brochures on our site. Let him know your story, and from a PR standpoint, I think that funding would be very difficult right now because it's it's not part of the government system or part of the Seneca County system. So I guess the best we could hope for would be private donations, and in order to get those, there needs to be some type of a campaign, right?
I'm ready.
So we can assist you with getting it out on the site, letting people know what the needs are.
And just as we'll be sending you quite soon, we have a large fundraiser coming. Again, I have this great audience, so I can share. We've always had Soul Shine. For 24 years, there was Soul Shine. That was for Terry's family was such a huge part of it. We wanted to honor her, but not take, their opportunity to grieve and all those things. So we're having October 5th, what is called the Fall Ball. And this Sugar Creek band that everybody's really into is coming, and they're going to play over at Stacy's Place, and hopefully we'll be able to get folks to come and just have a good night, have a good time, but really understand that this is about domestic violence, more so than whatever else your idea was about all of these things.
So in the, you say you serve multiple counties.
Mm-hmm.
Do you derive any of your revenue from the other counties, their marriage license as well?
We do. It's just, it's kind of proportionate. So there's one county, and sometimes I don't match them up correctly.
Okay.
One of them's like $700.
Okay.
So, because, we serve like
They
one
don't
person
marry
from
down
that
there?
county. You would think. Well, I'm sure this won't be the only conversation I'm having with the only county. You guys just happen to be the biggest one. So, sometimes we get a check for like $700, which is a far cry from 10,000. But we certainly proportionately serve probably roughly 75% of our folks are probably from Seneca County. So we try to keep it fair.
And do you have any sense what the funding trend has been on that historically?
The funding trend for First Step in general,
Well, from the marriage license, that's...
from the marriage license, I think it has stayed the same for several years. Lots of years. It's been the same amount. It's almost like, it feels like it's almost like a flat rate. So even if we have more folks, we don't necessarily get more money, but we can. Of course, that's all up to you guys. But those things can change depending on, how many people get married, what your budget is for that particular, line item and those kind of things. So I'd certainly ask you to look at your line items and see if there's something in there that maybe would help somewhere.
We can certainly encourage people to get married.
And yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Well, and if there happens to have been a change, I'm not sure if there's been, I've been hanging out up here in Northwest Ohio for a little while because I went to school in Findlay. So, if there's a change or any trend of change in marriage licenses that's happened since the, initiation of this thing, that'd be great to look at, but I really don't.
Can you do a research on that, Jen?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah, look at the
Do you have a
trend.
card?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Vital service
Do
to
you
the
have two
community.
cards, actually?
So, thank you for what
This
you
is
do
me,
and
too.
what all
Not
your
the
staff
purse, but
does.
Looking for the cards.
One. I have
Okay.
That's
I
all
will
we
take
have.
that. Okay, I'll get in contact with you if we can help
It
out
is.
in any way.
Yeah.
We'll try to help. So thank you
For
for
sure.
coming.
Thanks so much.
Can you take a picture
Thank
of this?
you.
Thank you, really, for all you do
Thank
and
you.
stepping in
Thank
this
you.
role.
Trying.
because, it's important work.
It's coming along.
And
Coming
to your
along.
staff as well. all
Oh,
of
they're
us.
so good. They're so good. Thank you.
We have a bid opening.
Yes.
We need to send around a sign-in sheet. And we are looking at a 6 passenger school bus for the School of Opportunity. And we have a bid.
There's no estimate or anything.
Let me look.
Ron is here, he keeps everything working, and we do a great job of maintaining their equipment out there, so if they need a new bus, I'm sure they do.
By the charging stations. Because
So many pages.
Fix it all going on. Yeah. At least you can go shopping at my house.
That's not your estimate though, right? This is their bid though. Yeah. Usually we get like a engineer's estimate on what it would cost. Haven't done a bus one in a while, so. First bid, and the only bid I have is Rush Truck Center of Ohio, out of Lima. Their bid amount is $96,272. They have added a few extra options, I'm guessing that was asked for. An optional stainless steel step well for $555, excuse me. And then they have their performance bond in here. Unit price for an optional 30-inch 3-part seat back, $418 each, and an optional 39-inch 3-part seat back, $450. So, I guess you will take this back and review it and let us know. Okay. And that's the only one I have.
So the 96,000 included those options?
No,
No.
no. So if they decide to go with those options, it would be additional.
Were those alternates you guys were seeking?
Yeah, to see what the cost would be, you can see what it's feasible or not.
Okay.
I'll give that to you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, guys.
Keep doing good work. Okay, executive sessions on there.
Yes. If we could do that now, I have personnel, compensation, and I have, pending litigation.
Okay. I'll make a motion for executive session for stated reasons. Roll call?
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes. All right, we will be back in action in a few minutes.